Joining us on the show right now is Attorney General Josh Kaul. First off, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
So the Budget Writing Committee just finished up their proposal, and part of it was you had a request for the Office of School Safety. They didn't meet your funding request. Can you just explain what the impact will be if you don't get to that number that you were requesting?
Yeah, well, first, this Office of School Safety was launched in 2018 with bipartisan support. Governor Walker signed it into law, and it's done phenomenal work over the last 5 years to help make schools in Wisconsin safe. As part of that, we have launched some really important programs, including a 24/7 confidential tip line that anybody associated with a school can report to. It's now received thousands of contacts and gotten interventions out to help keep kids safe. We also do threat assessment. Critical incident response teams have been trained by this office, and they do training around the state. Now, with the budget that was just passed, we're not going to have funding that will allow us to continue some of those programs, or we will have to make significant cutbacks. That means that schools are going to lose critical resources that help keep our kids safe.
Let's talk about some of the impact the cuts will have. Now, you're going to be left with still a few staff members, but not enough. Is that right?
That's exactly right. This budget would leave us with 3.8 staff members for the Office of School Safety. This is an office that serves schools throughout the state of Wisconsin, and they're required to collect certain documents and to review them. They do that, but they also have launched these other critical programs. But to put that 3.8 number in perspective, our 24/7 tip line has 9 analysts who are available 24/7 to respond to information that's provided, to get information to schools. We obviously couldn't continue that program with just 3.8 people in that office.
What are practically some of the other cuts that might have to happen other than the tip line then?
In addition to the tip line, we've trained critical incident response teams around the state. They're regional teams, and they respond if critical incidents arise. We do threat assessment training and have a threat assessment protocol as well. We'd have to make severe cutbacks really across the board with this kind of funding that we're seeing without the additional funding we've requested.
Are there any particular maybe success stories that you would pinpoint as you're trying to now ask for more funding?
Yeah, there are numerous success stories. Our tip line, for example, has received over 100 tips with concerns about planned school attacks. And we can point to specific tips where there's been a positive intervention. In one case, for example, both a parent and a student reported a gun on a bus. We got that information to local law enforcement. There was a response, and the gun was recovered, and an arrest was made. There have also been tips with allegations that somebody might shoot up a school that they had said they would do. We again were able to get a response out and intervene. Without that program, SROs and other people at schools would be left without that vital information to step in and help keep kids safe. I don't want to see that happen.
Now that the budget proposal is finalized, what is the next step for you as you try to seek some funding?
Well, this is going to be going to the floor of the legislature, so both the Assembly and the Senate will take this up. It's certainly my hope that they will consider making an amendment that would fund the Office of School Safety. And just to put our funding request into perspective, we've asked for $2.2 million over the 2-year budget. We have a surplus that is over $7 billion. So what we're asking for is less than 0.1% of the surplus to fund the Office of School Safety. And given how critical it is that we keep our kids safe, and given some of the issues we've seen in schools with these horrific attacks happening, I think that this is an investment we absolutely need to make for our kids.
Were you given any reasoning when they rejected that proposal that you had?
Well, the main thing that we heard from the legislature is that they didn't want to grow government or to expand programs. But first, these are people who are already working for state government. They're in project positions or they're limited term employees. We want to make them full term. But secondly, these are programs that were launched with federal grant funding that was meant to develop the kinds of programs that can help keep schools safe, like this program. Now that we've shown that this program works, I think it's critical that we continue that program rather than getting rid of something that we know is helping to keep kids safe in schools.
And finally, we're at the 1-year anniversary of the Dobbs decision. Obviously, you've been challenging the state abortion ban. Where does that sit, and how do you see it moving forward right now?
Well, over the past year, we have seen significant harms to people as a result of the lack of access to safe and legal abortion in Wisconsin. There are some really heartbreaking stories about people who were unable to get the care they needed or had it delayed because of uncertainty about what the law is. So we're committed to fighting to restore access to safe and legal abortion in Wisconsin. The lawsuit is in the circuit court right now, the trial court level. The judge heard a motion to dismiss in early May, so we're waiting for a ruling on that. Once we get a decision on that, I expect that the proceedings will move quite quickly in the trial court level. and then it will go up to the appeals process. So I think maybe later this year or early next year it will work its way through the appellate process, and hopefully we'll get a decision soon, because the 1849 law that some people understand to ban most abortions in Wisconsin is causing harms every day, and the sooner we can ensure that that law is not going to block access to safe and legal abortion, the better off that Wisconsinites will be.
Attorney General Josh Kaul, thank you for the time as always.
Thanks for having me.